My best friend of 15 years showed up to my wedding in white, holding my fiancé Estienne's hand. "We need to tell you something," she said, while 200 guests turned to stare. I stood frozen in my $5,000 gown, the one Lily had helped me pick out 6 months ago. The same Lily who was now gripping Ryan's fingers like they belonged to her. My mind refused to process what my eyes were seeing. The whispers from the guests swelled into a hurricane around me. "Emma, I am so sorry," Ryan said, his voice cracking in that familiar way it did when he was nervous. "We never meant for this to happen. Meant for what to happen." My brain felt like it was swimming through mud. Lily was my maid of honor. The wedding coordinator had been looking for her all morning, and Ryan. He was supposed to be waiting at the altar, not standing at the entrance of the venue with my best friend. "How long?" I asked, surprised by how steady my voice sounded when everything inside me was crumbling. Lily's blue eyes, the same eyes that had cried with me through breakups, celebrated job promotions, and shared secrets over countless wine nights, couldn't meet mine. 8 months, she whispered. 8 months. While I was tasting cakes and addressing invitations, while she was helping me choose flowers and listening to me practice my vows, my mother rushed to my side, her arm steadier on my waist. "Everyone, please," she announced to the crowd, her voice tight with controlled fury. "Here has been a change of plans. The wedding will not be proceeding today." The murmurs grew louder. Phones were already out, recording my humiliation. My 15-year friendship and 3-year relationship were disintegrating in front of everyone I knew, and it would probably be on social media before I could even leave the venue. "You could have told me any other day," I said, my voice finally breaking. "Any day but today." "Emma, please understand." "Understand what?" My father appeared, his face thunderous. "That you waited until we paid for an entire wedding before revealing you are a cheating bastard." Lily flinched. "It wasn't like that, Mr. Carter. We tried to stop it so many times, but what?" I cut in, finding strength in my rising anger. "But you were too busy trying on my dresses when I wasn't looking, too occupied testing out my fiancé to bother with honesty." The shocked gasps from the crowd gave me a flicker of satisfaction. "Let them post that on Instagram." Rang's face paled. "Emma, that's not fair. We didn't plan this." "No." I slipped the diamond ring off my finger, the one he'd proposed with on the beach last year while Lily took candid photos. "Then why did I find a hotel confirmation email on our shared cloud last week? The one you said was for a business trip?" His eyes widened, but something in me had suspected, even as I desperately pushed the doubts away. "You booked a weekend getaway for after our honeymoon," I continued, my voice rising. "Not with me, your would-be wife, but with her." I tossed the ring. It hit his chest and fell to the floor with a pathetic clink. "Emmy," Lily started, using my childhood nickname like she still had the right. "Don't," I said, raising my hand. "You don't get to call me that anymore. You don't get to call me anything." My mother tightened her grip around me as my legs finally started to give way. The weight of humiliation and betrayal was crushing me. 200 pairs of eyes watched as the bride discovered she'd been replaced. "Get out," my father said to them, his voice low and dangerous. "Both of you now." As they turned to leave, Lily still in her inappropriate white dress, I noticed something that made my blood freeze. On her wrist was the thin gold bracelet my grandmother had given me, the something old I'd been looking for all morning. She'd stolen that from me too. 3 weeks after the wedding that never was, I sat cross-legged on my parents' living room floor, surrounded by gifts I needed to return. My mother had insisted on handling the venue refund negotiations, and my father had poured his rage into canceling vendors. But the gifts, the physical reminders of what should have been, those were my burden to bear. "You don't have to do this all at once," my mother said, setting down a cup of tea beside me. I nodded absently, staring at the crystal vase from Aunt Josephine. "How do you write a thank you, but actually sorry note for a gift given for a marriage that imploded before it began?" My phone buzzed for the 100th time that day, another well-meaning friend checking in, or worse, someone fishing for details. The story had spread beyond our social circle now. Local news had picked it up. The jilted bride, the best friend in white, the groom caught between. We'd become a cautionary tale. "Have you looked at those job offers yet?" Mom asked, trying to steer me towards something constructive before the wedding disaster. I'd turned down a promotion that would have required relocation. Ryan had just made partner at his law firm, and Lily had her graphic design business here. I couldn't imagine leaving them both behind. The irony wasn't lost on me now. "I'll check tomorrow," I promised, knowing I was running out of excuses. My leave of absence from work was almost up, and I couldn't hide in my childhood bedroom forever. After dinner, I escaped to that very bedroom where boxes of my belongings from the apartment Ryan and I had shared still sat unpacked. I hadn't wanted any of our furniture, our art, our shared life, just my clothes and personal items, fragments of who I was before us. I plugged in my old iPad to distract myself with mindless games, only to find it asking for an update to a cloud account Ryan and I had once shared. My finger hovered over the cancel button, but curiosity won out. I entered the password, Lily's birthday, ironically enough, because Ryan always forgot passwords and needed something easy. The cloud synced, and a folder titled R&L appeared among my files. My heart pounded as I tapped it open. Inside were hundreds of photos Ryan and Lily at a cabin I'd never seen, Lily wearing clothes I'd bought for myself, both of them laughing at what appeared to be inside jokes in familiar restaurants. But what truly gutted me was a document titled Timmalang. I opened it with shaking hands. Spanning months. March per Emma's promotion opportunity encourage her to decline April parrot Gwinging wedding planning, suggest expensive venue may parrot and increase Emma's responsibilities, less time with Ryan, July parrot Hespic new apartments while Emma visits her grandmother. The list continued. Each entry was a calculated step, engineering my life toward their desired outcome. They hadn't just fallen in love behind my back, they had actively sabotaged me. I scrolled further, nausea rising in my throat. October pert wedding day. Plan A. Ryan tells Emma privately in morning. Plan B. Last minute announcement. Quick departure. Plan C. Proceed with ceremony. Tell her after honeymoon they'd had multiple plans for destroying my life. The public humiliation hadn't been an impulsive confession, it had been premeditated. My phone rang, startling me. An unknown number. "Hello?" I answered cautiously. "Emma, it's Alex Monroe from college." I hadn't heard from Alex in years, not since he and Ryan had fallen out over some business venture gone wrong. Back then I'd sided with Ryan naturally. "I know this is out of the blue," he continued when I didn't respond. "I heard about what happened. It's all over Westbeden that you might be reconsidering that position at Meridian Creative." I frowned. I hadn't told anyone about reconsidering that job. "How did you know about that?" There was a pause. "Because I work there now, and because I saw an email from Lily to our director withdrawing herself from consideration for the same position, dated 3 days ago." My blood ran cold as another piece of the puzzle clicked into place. "Emma," Alex said quietly, "I think here is a lot more to what they did to you than you know, and I think you deserve to find out what it was." this? I looked back at the iPad at the damning timeline of betrayal. Tell me everything, I said. I don't understand, I said, staring at Alex across the coffee shop table. Why would Lily apply for a job at Meridian Creative? She has her own design business. Alex's expression was grim as he slid a folder across to me. Her business has been failing for months, but more importantly, she applied for your job using your portfolio. My hands trembled as I opened the folder. Inside was a printing of what looked like my professional website, except the name had been changed to Lily Warner Dyson. Projects I'd poured my heart into, campaigns I'd led, even my client testimonials, all claimed as hers. How did you get this? I asked, feeling sick. We had a security breach 3 weeks ago. IT tracked it to an external portfolio site. Lily's. When I saw the work, I recognized it immediately. Alex's eyes softened. I remembered that campaign you did for the Children's Hospital, the one with the origami birds. I nodded numbly. That campaign had won me an industry award. She didn't just steal your fiancé, Emma. She's been stealing your work, your opportunities. I think she's been doing it for years. Over the next hour, Alex helped me piece together a disturbing pattern, recreated a timeline of our own, cross-referencing social media posts, professional achievements, and personal milestones. Lily had systematically inserted herself into every aspect of my life. The interior design course I'd mentioned wanting to take. She enrolled the next day. She announced her own mysterious big client shortly after. Even my wedding venue had been my original dream location, one I'd shown her in a magazine years ago. But why would Ryan go along with this? I asked, pushing away my cold coffee. What did he get out of helping her take over my life? Alex hesitated. But I have a theory, he explained what had really happened between him and Ryan in college. It hadn't been a simple business disagreement. Alex had discovered Ryan cheating on financial documents for their startup, potentially committing fraud. Instead of reporting him, Alex had simply walked away, and Ryan had painted him as the villain, and making himself the hero of stories where he's actually the villain. The pieces were falling into place. Ryan's unexplained income fluctuations, the work emergencies that never seemed to have any documentation, his insistence on handling all our finances. I need to see our joint accounts, I said suddenly. Alex helped me log into the banking portal I'd rarely checked. Ryan had always handled that, claiming my creative brain wasn't suited for numbers. What I found made my stomach drop. Regular transfers to an account labeled L Investments, tens of thousands of dollars over the past year alone. That son of a bitch was funding her business with our money, I whispered. Money I'd contributed to, believing we were saving for our future. As the coffee shop began to close, Alex cautiously suggested dinner. Under normal circumstances, I might have declined. It felt too soon after everything. But normality had shattered the moment Lily walked into my wedding in white. Over pizza at a quiet restaurant, our conversation shifted from my betrayal to catching up on the years since college. Despite everything, I found myself laughing at Alex's stories about terrible first dates and workplace disasters. I didn't realize how much I missed this, I admitted, just talking without walking on eggshells. Alex tilted his head. You had to do that with them? I hadn't even noticed it happening. How Ryan would dismiss my ideas if they didn't align with his. How Lily would subtly compete with every achievement. How I'd gradually stop sharing my real thoughts, afraid of their judgments. I think I've been lost for longer than I realized, I said softly as Alex drove me back to my parents' house. He pulled up an email on his phone. The creative director position is still open. Lily withdrew and they haven't filled it. He hesitated. It's in Chicago. I know that's not a small move. I looked out at my childhood home, where I'd retreated to lick my wounds, then back at the evidence of betrayal we compiled. Send me the application link, I said. I think it's time I took back my life. The receptionist handed me a security badge with my name and photo. After weeks of interviews and portfolio reviews, the job was officially mine. Not because my best friend tried to steal it, but because I'd earned it. My new office overlooked the Chicago River, a world away from the life I'd left behind. I arranged my desk meticulously, placing a small box in the drawer containing printouts of all the evidence Alex and I had gathered. A reminder of why I was starting over. My phone buzzed with a text from Alex. First day survival kit delivered to your desk at 12. Don't peek early. He'd been instrumental in this transition, helping me find an apartment, introducing me to his Chicago friends, and never once pushing for anything beyond friendship. After having my trust so thoroughly violated, his patience was exactly what I needed. I was arranging my design materials when my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Emma, it's Lily. My hand froze. After nearly 2 months of silence, after everything she'd done, she had the audacity to call as if we were still friends. What do you want? I kept my voice neutral, professional, though my heart hammered in my chest. She sighed dramatically. I miss you, Emmy. Things with Ryan are. The old Emma might have softened, might have offered comfort even to the person who'd betrayed her. The new Emma knew better. Complicated how? I asked, allowing curiosity to override my better judgment. He's not who I thought he was, she said, her voice small. He's controlling. He monitors all our finances. He even checks my phone. And he keeps saying things would be different if you hadn't overreacted at the wedding. I almost laughed. Overreacted. To finding out my fiancé, when maid of honor, had been lying to me for nearly a year. It wasn't a full year, she corrected quickly. We tried to tell you so many times, but you were so excited about the wedding, always talking about your perfect life. The victim blaming was so transparent, it was almost comical. Lily, why are you really calling? A pause. I heard you got the Meridian job in Chicago, and there it was. Not concerned for our friendship, but monitoring my career moves. I wondered if she was still passing off my work as her own. Yes, I did. First day is today, actually, I replied, keeping my tone professional. There was a long pause on the line. Oh, that's great. I just thought maybe we should talk before you left town. Clear the air. The air is pretty clear from where I am standing, Lily. I checked my watch. The creative team meeting started in 15 minutes. Is there something specific you needed? Her voice hardened slightly. Rang says you froze the joint accounts. His lawyer says that's illegal. Of course, she wasn't calling to apologize. She wanted money. I didn't freeze anything, I said truthfully. I removed my name from the accounts after documenting the transfers Ryan made to L Investments. None $60,000 over the past 2 years. My lawyer says that's illegal. That was for our future, she sputtered. For the wedding for your failing design business, I finished for her. The one where you've been passing off my work as your own. Does Ryan know you tried to get the job I just accepted? In choosing my portfolio? The silence on the other end was deeply satisfying. You don't understand? She finally said, her voice small. I was always in your shadow. That someone always chose you, including Ryan apparently, at least initially. The irony wasn't lost on me. I have to go, Lily. I have a meeting. Please don't call again. I ended the call and took a deep breath, surprised by how steady I felt. 2 months ago, her call would have devastated me. Today, it was just an unfortunate interruption to my first day. At noon sharp, a delivery person arrived with a sleek gift bag. Alex Alex's promised survival kit. I was a beautiful leather notebook, high-end pens, a small plan for my desk, and a card that read, "For new beginnings, proud of you, parent A." By 5 o'clock, I'd met my team, been briefed on ongoing projects, and already pitched an idea that the creative director loved. As I packed up my things, my phone buzzed with a text from Alex. "Dinner to celebrate day. One cross not to talk about work or exes." I smiled, typing back, "Deal, but I get to pick the restaurant." Walking out of the building, I felt lighter than I had in months. The evidence box stayed locked in my desk drawer, a reminder of what I'd survived, but not what defined me. Chicago sprawled before me, a city of strangers and possibilities. For the first time since the wedding disaster, I felt something that surprised me: hope. 3 months into my new life in Chicago, I'd settled into a comfortable routine. My team at Meridian respected my work, my small apartment near the lake felt more like home each day, and my friendship with Alex had deepened into something I wasn't quite ready to label. Earth to Emma. Alex waved his hand in front of my face, bringing me back to our lunch in the park. "Sorry," I smiled, pushing aside thoughts of the upcoming presentation. "Just thinking about work, liar," he grinned. "You were thinking about the email, weren't you?" The email, a message from my former college professor asking if I could speak at an alumni event next month, back in my hometown, where Ryan and Lily still lived. I should say no, I sighed. It's too soon. Alex leaned back on the park bench. "It's been 5 months, Em, and you are doing amazing work here. Maybe it's time to show them that." Before I could respond, my phone rang. My mother's name flashed on the screen. "Mom, everything okay?" She rarely called during work hours. Honey, her voice sounded strange. "Someone broke into the storage unit where we put your wedding things." My stomach dropped. "What?" "When? Yesterday. The facility called this morning. The lock was cut, but the strange thing is nothing seems to be missing." She paused, just disturbed, like someone was looking for something. Ice ran through my veins. The evidence? Most was digital, but I'd kept hard copies of the banking records and parents in a box labeled "wedding thank you cards" in that very storage unit. "Lamont, was there a small blue box with the stationery? Let me check." I heard shuffling. "No, honey, no blue box." After promising to call her back, I turned to Alex, my hands shaking slightly. "I need to go back," I said quietly. "Someone's trying to cover their tracks." 2 days later, I found myself standing in my parents' living room, surrounded by the opened boxes from storage. Most were untouched, carefully packed wedding decorations, the preserved gown I hadn't been able to return, guest favors still in their original packaging. But anywhere documentation might have been hidden, stationery boxes, photo albums, even the wedding planner had been rifled through. "Why now?" my father asked, helping me sort through the mess. "It's been months." The answer came that evening in the form of a local business magazine my mother had saved for me. On the cover was Ryan, smiling confidently beside the headline, "Rising star attorney Simpereted for original business dream Jagardrop reputation." I murmured, "He's being vetted for something important." Alex, who had insisted on accompanying me to my hometown, studied the magazine. The article mentions his entrepreneurial investments and support of local creative businesses, Lily's failing business. He's laundering his story. A notification popped up on my phone, an email from a name I didn't recognize, Julia Winters. The subject line read simply, "About Ryan Freeman." I opened it cautiously. "Miss Carter, we haven't met, but I work at Brennan Holtz & Associate, where Ryan is an associate. I am reaching out because our firm is conducting a review for his partnership consideration, and some discrepancies have emerged. I understand your relationship ended badly. However, if you have information regarding client fund management or investment activities, I would appreciate a confidential conversation. Sincerely, Julia Winters, Ethics Compliance." I showed the email to Alex, whose eyebrows shot up. "That explains the break-in," he said. "If he's up for partner and they're investigating, he knows I had proof of what he did." I finished. "But why would this Julia person reach out to me?" The answer came the next morning, when I met Julia at a quiet clashery outside town. She was older than I expected, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Thank you for meeting me," she said after we'd settled with our coffees. "This isn't standard procedure, but the circumstances are unusual." "How so?" I asked carefully. Julia's mouth tightened. 3 weeks ago, a client noticed unauthorized transfers from their estate account handled exclusively by Ryan. When confronted, he claimed his assistant must have made a clerical error. My heart raced as she continued. "The assistant was a young woman named Louie Warner. She was hired 6 months ago with glowing references supposedly from your former employer, though we've since learned those were falsified." I nearly dropped my cup. "Lily works at Ryan's law firm?" Julia nodded grimly. "Worked? She disappeared 3 days ago after we began a formal investigation. Her apartment was cleared out overnight. Ryan claims no knowledge of her whereabouts." The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. Ryan hadn't just been funding Lily's failing business. He'd been using her as a scapegoat for his larger financial schemes. And now that things were unraveling, she had either fled or I wouldn't let my mind go there. "I have documentation," I said quietly. "Banking records showing transfers from our joint accounts to Lily's business. Evidence that they were collaborating for years. But the originals were stolen from my parents' storage unit 2 days ago. Do you have copies, digital ones? And here is something else." I hesitated before explaining about the timeline I'd found, the meticulous planning of their betrayal. "This wasn't just a personal relationship gone wrong," I concluded. "It was calculated, and I think whatever Ryan was doing at your firm might have been just as deliberate." As Julia made notes, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. My blood froze as I read it. "Emma, it's Lily. I need help. Ryan's not who you think, not who I thought either. I made a terrible mistake." Attached was a photo of Lily's face. Her eye bruised, her lip split. "Oh my God," I whispered, showing Julia the message. Her professional composure cracked slightly. "We need to contact the police." As we rushed from the Cusnatee, another text came through. "Don't trust anyone from the firm. He has friends there. I'll be at the place where you got engaged. Come alone, the Botanical Gardens," where Ryan had proposed in front of our friends and family, with Lily behind a camera capturing every moment. I showed Julia the message. "I know where she is, but something felt wrong. The theatrical nature of it all, the dramatic texts, the convenient timing, the specific request to come alone. This feels like a trap," I said slowly. Julia studied the messages, her expression grim. "I agree, but if she's really in danger, then we need backup," I finished, already dialing Alex. The Botanical Gardens were eerily quiet as I approached the Japanese bridge where Ryan had once knelt with a ring. The autumn sunset cast long shadows across the water, and a chill wind rustled through the ornamental grasses. According to our hastily formed plan, Alex was positioned near the main entrance while Julia waited in her car with the engine running. The police had been called but wouldn't arrive for at least 15 minutes apparently. A domestic situation involving a high-profile attorney required special handling. I checked my phone once more before tucking it into my pocket, making sure the recording app was running. Whatever happened here here I wanted evidence. A figure emerged from behind a stone lantern, but it wasn't Lily. Hello, Emma? Ryan stood on the bridge, hands in the pockets of his expensive coat. He looked exactly as I remembered, down to the slightly crooked smile that had once made my heart race. Now it just made my skin crawl. Deb, you here is Lily? I demanded, stopping several feet away from him. He sighed dramatically. Not here, obviously. I borrowed her phone. Needed to get your attention. From a different disagreement. His casual dismissal of what was clearly abuse made my stomach turn. She's fine, probably halfway to Canada by now. I took a step backward. So this was a setup? A conversation, he corrected smoothly. One we should have had months ago before you started spreading lies about me. I haven't spread anything, I said truthfully, though it sounds like your own actions are catching up to you. His expression hardened. My partnership review was going perfectly until you got involved. What did you tell Julia? The truth, I replied simply. That you've been moving money where it doesn't belong for years. Busies with our joint accounts. Ryan laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. You never understood finance, Emma, always happy to let me handle the boring stuff while you played with your little design projects. The condescension in his voice was so familiar it hurt. How had I never noticed it before? Those little projects paid for half our life together, I reminded him, including the down payment on the house you put in Lily's name. Something flashed across his face, surprise. Maybe he hadn't expected me to know that detail. Where are the documents you stole from my parents' storage unit? I asked, changing tactics. He shrugged. Somewhere safe, just like the originals of the work Lily borrowed from you. Insurance, you might say. Blackmail, you mean. Such an ugly word. He took a step toward me. I prefer mutual protection, which is what I am offering you now. I held my ground. I am not interested in protection. I have a new life, a job I love, a new boyfriend. He cut in, his eyes cold. Alex Monroe, did he tell you what really happened between us in college? He told me you falsified financial documents and he walked away rather than report you, I said, which seems to be a pattern with you. Ryan's laugh was harsh. Is that what he said? That's rich coming from the guy who embezzled our startup funds and then vanished. Check your sources, Emma. For a brief, horrible moment, doubt crept in. What if Alex had lied? What if Ryan was telling the truth? Number, I'd seen the evidence myself, the bank records, the timeline. Whatever Ryan was trying now, it was just another manipulation. I've seen enough proof of what you've done, I said firmly. To me, to Lily, to your clients, it's over, Ryan. His face darkened. Nothing's over until I say it is. I built everything I have from nothing. No one gets to take that from me. Not Lily with her demands, not the firm with their ethics concerns, and certainly not you with your self-righteous victimhood. He moved closer, forcing me to step back. Here's what's going to happen. You are going to tell Julia you made a mistake, that in your emotional state after our breakup, you misinterpreted normal financial transactions. And why would I do that? I asked, continuing to retreat. His smile was chilling. Because if you don't, every client in Chicago will see a portfolio showing how you stole Lily's work. Your new employer will receive evidence that you falsified your credentials. And your precious Alex will find himself facing the fraud charges he escaped years ago. That's your plan, more lies. They don't have to be lies, Emma. His voice softened, almost tender. We could start over. I made a mistake with Lily. She was just available, useful, but it was always supposed to be you and me. The realization hit me like a physical blow. Ryan hadn't loved Lily either. She'd been a tool, someone to manipulate and use, just like me. You are unbelievable, I whispered. I am practical, he countered, and generous considering the trouble you've caused me. So what will it be, retraction and reconciliation or mutual destruction? Before I could answer, a voice called from behind me. She'll take the destruction option. Lily emerged from the garden path, her face pale but unmarked, nothing like the bruised photo I'd received. Behind her stood Alex and surprisingly Julia. Ryan's composure slipped. What is this? This, said Lily, stepping forward with a tablet in her hand, is me choosing a side for once. She turned the screen toward him. On it was a video playing Ryan in his office, clearly instructing Lily on how to transfer funds from client accounts. I started recording our conversations months ago, she said quietly. I just couldn't access them after you took my phone. You changed the passwords to everything, she continued, kept me trapped. But you forgot about the cloud backup. Ryan lunged for the tablet, but Alex stepped between them. Don't, he warned. The police are on their way, Julia added, her professional demeanor firmly back in place. And the firm has already received copies of these recordings. Ryan turned to me, his charming mask completely gone. You set me up. No, I said, finding my voice. You did that all by yourself. As the sound of sirens approached in the distance, I faced the man I'd once planned to marry. It's over, Ryan. Prox is over. 6 months after the confrontation at the Botanical Gardens, I stood at the podium of my alma mater's business school, concluding my guest lecture on ethical design practices. The irony wasn't lost on me. Talking about ethics after what I'd experienced seemed almost comical. Remember, I told the room full of attentive students, your creative work isn't just about aesthetics, it's about trust. Each project carries your integrity with it. Guard it carefully. As the audience applauded, I caught sight of my mother in the back row, beaming with pride. Beside her sat Alex, who had flown in from Chicago for the occasion despite his own packed schedule. After the talk, we escaped to a quiet collation off campus. The early summer air was fragrant with honeysuckle, so different from the day Ryan had been arrested 6 months earlier. Have you seen the news? Alex asked, sliding his phone across the table. The headline read, former attorney pleads guilty to embezzlement fraud charges. Below was Ryan's formal headshot, looking considerably less polished than I remembered. 10 to 15 years, my mother read over my shoulder. Good riddance. I handed the phone back. And Lily, I handed the phone back. And Lily, reduced charges in exchange for her testimony, Alex said. Probation, community service, and restitution payments to the clients and to you for the stolen work. She's also banned from working in design for 5 years. I nodded, feeling strangely empty. The justice I'd once desperately craved now felt hollow, not because it wasn't deserved, but because I'd moved so far beyond needing it. Are you okay? My mother asked, studying my face. I am, I realized, surprised by the truth of it. I actually am. The clef-nay door chimed, and a familiar figure walked in. Julia Winters, now the new ethics partner at Ryan's former firm, spotted us and made her way over. I thought I might find you here, she said, setting down her briefcase. Do you mind if I join you for a moment? Alex moved over, making room at our table. The firm wanted me to personally deliver this, Julia said, sliding an envelope toward me.